You are a walking fossil, whether you like it or not. From useless teeth in your gums to bones that used to be part of a tail, and all of those erectopili. Not sure how many of you have heard that name before, but don't worry though, I'll get to that one soon enough. But before I start poking at the leftover bits, I want you to hit like and subscribe. It really keeps videos like this coming and helps tell YouTube that you appreciate a good science story. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 evolutionary leftovers you still carry. 25. Goosebumps. Yeah, let's do this one immediately, why don't we? I was testing your smarts with the intro, but the erectopili are just the little muscles that are attached to your hair follicles. When they tighten, your hair stands up, and voila! For our fur-covered ancestors, that reflex actually mattered. Raised hair trapped more air for warmth and made them look bigger to anything thinking about having them for lunch. For us, though, it doesn't do much besides announce that we're freezing or freaked out. The bright minds at Harvard think that might also still be involved with a bit of maintenance, keeping the follicle stem cells nourished and responsive, which might be why they haven't completely disappeared. 24. Nails. About 58 million years ago, primates got rid of their claws and grew nails instead. And it was kind of a big deal. It made climbing, gripping, and grabbing much easier. And it protected the nerve endings in their fingertips, which made life in the trees a lot safer. It turned out to be pretty useful for getting to their food, too. And yes, I'm not forgetting to mention toenails. They shielded the soft ends of our early ancestors' toes and gave them strength when they moved or pushed off. Fast forward a couple of million years and here we are, filing them, painting them, and occasionally tearing or breaking them on our coffee tables. 23. Hiccups. This is undeniably the one reflex that strikes when you least expect it. The unexpected hit is basically your diaphragm twitching right before your throat closes. They're a bit of a mystery, but most scientists believe we might have gotten them from our amphibian ancestors, who needed a way to shut off their throats while switching between air and water breathing. I know, it's not a very appetizing idea, right? But there's another theory about them too, and it's more recent. Babies hiccup more than we do, even before they're born. So this could be a built-in method for babies to let out extra air during feeding and practice breathing at the same time. Either way, hiccups have long outlived their usefulness. 22. Hypnic jerks. Okay, so now that I'm here, I'm suddenly realizing that I might have declared the number one reflex that hits you when you least expect it a bit too soon. About 70% of us get that jolt right before we fall asleep, and it is never a pleasant experience. The name comes from the hypnagogic state, which is just another word for that drowsy crossover between being awake and being out cold. It could be the body reacting to stress, caffeine, or a long day of being on edge. But there's also a theory that takes it back to the trees. Early humans slept off the ground, and when their muscles started to relax, the brain might have fired off a quick, grab something signal to keep them from falling. Another idea says it's the body checking to see if sleep paralysis has kicked in yet, since that system prevents you from acting out your dreams. Either way, the reflex is harmless, unless you've ever accidentally kicked the person next to you, in which case, you might have some explaining to do. 21. Wisdom teeth. Humans used to need a third set of molars to grind down raw plants, roots, and tougher meat. These days, however, most of us get by just fine without them, which is probably why they've become more of a dental nuisance than a survival tool. In fact, about 22% of people never get all four, and for many of the rest, at least one ends up impacted, meaning it never fully breaks through the gums. Our jaws just don't have the space anymore, something science says boils down to how we eat as kids. Chewing hard foods helps stimulate jaw growth, while softer diets seem to stunt it. So the children raised on nuts and raw vegetables usually develop stronger, wider jaws, which makes room for those molars. The rest of us raised on softer processed foods, not so much. 20. Eyebrows. We don't give our eyebrows nearly enough credit. They started out as practical tools, keeping sweat, rain, and dirt out of our eyes. But that's not the only reason they stuck around. In 2018, researchers found that eyebrows may have done more than just keep vision clear. They might have helped us survive as a species. Neanderthals had thick brow ridges that made them look tougher, but those heavy bones didn't let the brows move around much. Modern humans evolved flatter foreheads, which gave us flexible eyebrows that could show emotion. Things like surprise, empathy, that's more sympathy, or friendliness. That small range of expression probably helped early humans bond and avoid fights. It might even have given us an edge over Neanderthals who couldn't talk with their faces the way we do. 19. Paranasal sinuses. Your sinuses make your skull lighter, help shape your voice, and warm and moisten the air you breathe. Or that's the working theory anyway, because scientists still don't seem to agree on why we have them in the first place. Early humans had larger sinuses lined with more scent receptors, which helped with their sense of smell and ability to survive in harsher environments. As we evolved, those air pockets shrank and lost most of their original function, so we have been left with cavities that mostly remind us they exist when they're clogged or aching. Despite all that, though, they're still being useful in unexpected ways. Researchers now use them to track how human skulls evolved, how brain sizes changed, and how our faces changed over time. 18. Tonsils and adenoids. Do you still have your tonsils? I do. Tonsils and adenoids are part of what doctors call Waldeyer's ring, a circle of immune tissue that sits at the entrance of the throat. For our distant ancestors, who had infants nursing in less sanitary conditions, they were critical for catching germs entering via the mouth or nose. But nowadays, we're far less dependent on that filtering job. In fact, the adenoids shrink as kids grow up, and most adults barely have any left. Surgeons remove them pretty often, and most people go on just fine without them. 17. Darwin's point. Okay, real quick. Grab a mirror or open your phone's camera and check the top rim of your ear. If you see a tiny bump sticking out along the edge right over here, you're looking at Darwin's point. There are a surprising number of people with it. About 10% in Spain and 40% in India, and almost 60% of people in Sweden. Our distant primate ancestors had ears that could swivel and move to help them pinpoint the direction of sounds. As we evolved and relied less on our hearing to survive, that mobility disappeared, but the little bump stayed behind. 16. The fibella. There's something weird going on with the human kneecap. Some people have an extra bone in there called the fibella, sitting just behind the knee joint. It's small, about the size of a pea, and it used to help our primate ancestors with balance and movement. Over time, it mostly disappeared in humans, and everyone just assumed it was just one of those things that we got rid of. Except apparently it's coming back. In 2019, researchers from Imperial College London went through more than 21,000 knee scars from 27 different countries and discovered that just over 10% of people had a fibella in 1918. A century later, that number had climbed to almost 40%. That is a big comeback for a bone nobody was expecting, and modern life might be to blame. Better nutrition, taller bodies, and more weight means more pressure on the joints, which could be triggering that old bone to grow again. 15. The pramadalis muscle. If you've never heard of the pramadalis muscle, you're not alone. It's a small triangle-shaped muscle hiding low in your abdomen, right in front of your six-pack. Yeah. About 1 in 5 people don't have it at all, and if you're missing it, you probably would never know. Unless you know you're a bodybuilder or a pro athlete of sorts. This tiny muscle probably helped to tense the abdomen while running, climbing, or twisting. But these days, it's mostly something some of us, apparently not all of us, can rely on when it's time to move fridges, couches, or ergonomic office chairs. If you're one of the lucky few who still have it, it just helps tighten the linea alba, that thin strip of connective tissue down the middle of your belly. But if it's gone, your abs still work just fine. 14. The palmaris longus. Alright, try this one with me. Take your arm, bring your pinky and your thumb, put them together. Check your wrist. If a tendon pops up in the middle, you can actually see it right here on me, that is your palmaris longus. If you don't see it, congratulations. You're part of the 10 to 15% of humans who are born without it. That tendon connects to a muscle that once helped our tree-living ancestors grip and swing. Today, it's basically a spare part. Studies show people with and without it have the same grip strength, and most never even know whether they have it. Surgeons actually use it in tendon grafts because it can be removed without affecting anything else. 13. The auricular muscles. Okay, I've got one more for you. See if you can move your ears. Go on, give it a shot. We all have the muscles that do it, and just like Darwin's point, they're leftovers from a time when we needed to swivel our ears to look for danger or prey. Those same muscles still show up in other animals today, like cats, rabbits, and gazelles. They can turn their ears towards any sound, no matter where it comes from, which gives them a huge survival advantage. Humans still have all three of those muscles, but we lost the wiring that makes them work properly. Studies have shown they still react when we hear a sudden noise, they just don't have enough strength to actually move our ears around anymore. I can't. Nope. I can't even open my eyes wide, so I can't move my ears. Yeah, I'm telling you, I've done this before. I have small eyes, so when my eyebrows go up, my eyes don't. 12. The palmar grasp reflex. Babies instinctively wrap their little fingers around anything that touches their palm, and they've got a surprisingly strong grip for someone who can't even hold up their own head. But it's not just cute, it's ancient. Our primate ancestors relied on that reflex so newborns could cling to their mother's fur while they moved around. Human babies still have the same reflex today, but it disappears as soon as they learn to control their movements and use their hands deliberately instead of by instinct. 11. Jacobson's organ. Just a couple of centimeters behind your nostrils is a small duct called the vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ. If you were a reptile or a cat, that little patch would help you to smell pheromones, or the chemical messages used for mating, territory, or survival. Researchers from the Netherlands have used medical cameras and cadaver studies to confirm that it's there. It's just that some people have it on one side, others on both, and some not at all. The tissues react to pheromone-like molecules when they're exposed to them, but there's no evidence that it connects to the brain. The nerve links and genes that once made it work are broken or gone, and now we simply rely on language, sight, and the odd bit of deodorant to do the talking. 10. The coccyx. You might not have a tail, but you do have the leftovers of one. That little triangle of a bone at the base of your spine is made of a few fused vertebrae, and that's all that remains of the tails our distant ancestors used for balance and climbing. Although technically vestigial, the tailbone still bears weight. It anchors muscles and ligaments that support your pelvic floor, helping with sitting balance and even play a role in bowel movements. Injure it, and you'll find out just how important it is. Tailbone bruises can take weeks to heal, and fractures are famously painful. 9. The appendix. The appendix used to be every biology classroom's poster child for a useless organ, but it's making a comeback. For scientists, at least. New studies show that this little pouch attached to your intestine evolved independently more than 30 times, which suggests it has real value. Researchers now think it serves as a backup system for your gut microbiome. If disaster strikes in the gut, like an infection or heavy antibiotic use, the appendix may preserve the beneficial bacteria you need to bounce back. For our ancestors living in high-risk environments, that could have made all the difference. 8. Plica semilunaris. You've probably noticed that little pink crescent in the corner of your eye before. Did you know that it's left over from your third eyelid? A third eyelid isn't weird in the animal kingdom. Cats, birds, and reptiles all have one that works just fine. In human embryos, that fold starts out far more developed, with several layers of tissue, glands, and blood vessels. But as the eyeball grows, that fold falls behind and stops developing, leaving us with that tiny little remnant. In animals with a functioning version, it's thick, muscular, and directly attached to the eyeball. If it had stuck around, it would have interfered with how we see today, but it might have given our ancestors a handy bit of protection and moisture before evolution moved on. 7. Body hair. If you've ever wondered why humans are so bald compared to the rest of the animal kingdom, the short answer is we got too good at sweating. Our earliest ancestors had thick coats that protected them from the sun, wind, and cold. But once they left the forests for the open savannas, hair became more of a heat trap than a shield. The climate demanded a better cooling system, and evolution delivered by turning us into the sweatiest primates alive. Today, humans have millions of sweat glands and can produce several gallons of sweat a day. That would have made early hunters far more efficient in the heat, able to outlast fur-covered prey that overheated quickly. What scientists are still debating, however, is how and when this shift happened. Was the hair loss triggered by more sweating, or was it the other way around? 6. A slow big toe. In 2018, a study identified the big toe as one of the last foot bones to evolve after humans decided to move back onto the ground. Walking upright required a major overhaul of the feet, and the big toe played a key role by giving traction with every step. Early on, it worked almost like a finger, gripping branches and acting as a tool. Over time, that flexible design had to stiffen to make walking and running possible on two legs. But the most surprising part of the development wasn't how long the big toe took to evolve, it was how long the toe stayed opposable. As it turns out, that earlier design didn't actually get in the way of efficient walking at all. It just took its time catching up. 5. Color blindness. About 1 in every 12 men is colorblind, compared to just 1 in every 200 women, and that uneven split has kept scientists at it for decades. The condition is mostly hereditary, passed down through the X chromosome, which is why men are far more likely to have it. What's strange is that it didn't fade out over time, even though being unable to tell a ripe fruit from a leaf or a snake from a branch seems like a pretty big disadvantage in the wild. Some researchers think it actually helped our ancestors in other ways. People with colorblindness often see contrasts and patterns more sharply, which would have made them better at spotting hidden animals or camouflaged threats. In fact, the same skill proved useful thousands of years later. According to some of the old reports, colorblind soldiers were better at detecting camouflaged enemy positions during World War II than those with full color vision. 4. Our stripes. No, that wasn't some mistake on my part. We really do have stripes, swirls, and even blocky patterns hidden inside our skin. They're called Blaschko lines, and while they're usually hidden, we all have them. A German dermatologist named Alfred Blaschko first noticed them when he realized that his patients' birthmarks, rashes, and moles all seemed to follow the same strange trails across the body. Some curved across the chest, some spiraled on the scalp, and others wrapped around the back. Scientists say those invisible lines are leftovers from when our skin cells divided and spread while we were still developing in the womb. Every person's pattern is unique, but the paths are basically the same. And sometimes, if you get certain skin conditions, or pigmentation changes, for example, vitiligo or lichen planus, those hidden stripes actually show up. You make terrible stripes. 3. The potential to be venomous. Venom glands are really just modified saliva glands. And in animals that use them, those glands are packed with genes that crank out proteins used to make toxins. Human saliva glands have some of those same genes. They already produce a group of proteins called kallikreins, which just happen to be one of the key ingredients in animal venom. Depending on the species, that protein mix can make a bite sting or even kill. Ours just never took things that far. The amount of kallikreins in human saliva is tiny, nowhere enough to do damage. Still, the potential is sitting right there in our DNA. So, maybe Stephanie Meyer was onto something after all. 2. Acne. Acne feels like one of those things that should have retired by now. It's common in teens, lingers in adults, and doesn't exactly scream survival advantage. But there is a decent reason we still get it. When humans lost most of our body hair, we didn't lose the oil glands that used to keep that fur healthy and waterproof. Those sebaceous glands kept producing oil, but now, with no fur to coat, it ends up clogging pores instead. There's another theory that acne might have served as a kind of social signal to show who had reached sexual maturity and was ready to reproduce. Whether that's true or not, we don't know yet, but we've definitely moved past the point where pimples count as attractive. 1. Alcohol tolerance, or the lack thereof. One of the strangest ways humans are still evolving has to do with how we process alcohol. In 2018, researchers found signs that the alcohol dehydrogenase, or ADH, gene cluster is still changing. And that's bad news for anyone who enjoys a drink. When you have a beer or two, your body breaks it down into a toxic compound called acetaldehyde. Normally, that's quickly converted into something harmless, but in some people, it builds up fast. The result is flushing, nausea, and a pounding heart. Basically, an instant hangover. People with certain East Asian or West African ancestry have versions of the ADH genes that make alcohol hit harder and faster. It's an adaptation that discourages heavy drinking, but no one's quite sure yet whether evolution is trying to protect us from booze or just punish us for enjoying it too much. And that's a wrap. Okay, let's hear it. Which one of those was your favorite, and why was it the human stripes? I'm just kidding. But I would like to hear your favorites, seriously. And if you want to see what happens when evolution goes extra, check out our related video, 25 Real Life X-Men, who will leave you in awe. Trust me, these people make the rest of us look like early prototypes. That link is going to pop up right about here. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. You truly are the best. Catch you next time.